Hey y'all, welcome back to Right at the Wire. Well, as part of our Saratoga Daily Stakes play, we're going to look at Saturday's Jim Dandy Stakes. It's a preview of the Travers, the Midsummer Classic, and it's got a very competitive field, and it's a very interesting race to take a look at, so let's do that. The Jim Dandy Stakes is a Grade 2, run at a mile and an eighth on the dirt for 3-year-olds only, and it's the 10th race on Saturday's card. And I will just say right off the bat, there's only a 5-horse field here, and I really can't understand why they can't get a bigger field for major stakes races like this, particularly at Saratoga. This is about the third one where we've had a 4 or 5-horse field, and it just seems ridiculous to me that we can't do something about this. I think we all deserve it, and we'd all like to see it. So please, racing office, do something about the field sizes. Number 1 is Disarm. He's most recently running the Matt Win in the slop and beat Verifying, and did so pretty well. I had one little thing that I did notice in watching the race, and that he took a little while to find his full stride. It was about mid-stretch, and when he finally kicked it in, of course, he surged right up and went right by impressively. But I just wonder about that, particularly in a small field like this. If it takes him a little while to engage, it may cost him. But aside from that, this horse is improving steadily. He's heading in the right direction. Steve Asmussen knows how to keep him running well once they get going. And I think this one certainly has a chance. He'll be up a little closer to the pace than some of the others that we have to worry about, and that might be a bit of an advantage. So I like Disarm's chances. I think he's one you need to use. Number 2 is Forte. There's nothing to me. There's no reason to knock this horse whatsoever. I mean, if you consider he had to scratch out of the Derby, and then had all that layoff until the Belmont. It was really a pretty magnificent job by Todd Pletcher to keep this horse in good form, and he really ran a hell of a Belmont. I don't think there's many people who watched that race who wouldn't say that he was the best horse in the race. He's the class of the division. He still has yet to be dethroned. The question about him, of course, is does he have another gear to move forward? I think he's proven in the Florida Derby as well as the Belmont that he can ratchet it up when he needs to be competitive. So while it's this is a preview of the Travers, so he doesn't necessarily the Travers is the ultimate goal. So the only thing you got to really worry about is perhaps him not being tuned up all the way, but the Fountain of Youth, I don't think he was tuned up all the way either, and he won that pretty handily. So I have no reason to doubt that this horse won't be run an A race for the Jim Dandy, and I think he's a win candidate. Hit show number 3 is ran a nice Belmont. A lot of people had him on top for the Belmont, not me, but. He runs his race every time. He's a very honest horse, and you gotta like that. Had a pretty good Derby, probably better than it looks, given the hot pace. And he came right back in the Belmont and ran a solid race. He's just a cut below the better horses, and that's all there is to it. He's going to be up near the pace today, or for the race, and that does give him a tactical advantage, and he'll get first jump. And then it's a question of whether he's good enough, and I just don't think he is. But he's a nice horse, and I think he could certainly finish under here, but that's the extent of it. Saudi Crown I really like in this race. He's the lone speed, and he has a couple of advantages. Number 1, recency. He's been running steadily. And you see the Dwyer, he had a hell of a good race. I mean, he had to fought nip and tuck with Fort Bragg all the way down the stretch before finally losing out, but nothing to be ashamed of whatsoever. Ran a fantastic race in only his 3rd start in the graded stakes. He's moving up to a mile and an eighth. I don't think that's going to be a problem. He should be all alone on the lead, and if he can just set honest fractions a little softer than what he has been doing in the last 3, particularly the Dwyer, those were awfully hot. Then I think he's got a chance to tactically control this race and has a really good chance of taking it down. A lot of these other runners are a little slow to get engaged into the race, and I think that's a tremendous advantage for Saudi Crown. Now, I'm not sure that he's good enough to beat this field. It's a pretty salty bunch, but I think tactically he's got a real big advantage, and I wouldn't talk anybody out of trying to beat Forte and putting this one on top. Number 5 is Angel of Empire. Conversely, one of 3 Cox is in here, so they just underscores how they need to build out the field sizes for these races. Where everything is tactically a plus for Saudi Crown, it is not here for Angel Empire. This race couldn't be more against him, I think, if he tried. Now, we've seen over the course of Angel of Empire's career, I've always liked this horse a lot. He just doesn't do anything wrong. He's just gotten better with every single start, culminating with the Kentucky Derby. The Belmont was a little disappointing because I think they tried to keep him a little closer to the pace and putting blinkers on him, and it just really seemed to sap that late kick that he has. Now, I don't know if they're going to revert back to that for this race. If they do, I think he's even more at a disadvantage because of the small field size, and there'll be others that will have a jump on him. If they go back to what he did in the Belmont, I think he's also at a disadvantage because there's others who rate better than he does. He's certainly capable. He's a great horse. I mean, I love him, but I just think tactically he's in a really bad position in this race. Unfortunately, he could still get up and under because he has the class to do it. I just think this race is really running against him, unfortunately. So here's our top 5 for the Jim Dandy. Number 1, we're going to go with Saudi Crown. I think he tactically has all the advantages being on the front end and the lone pace. He'll be able to dictate things along, and he's progressing in exactly the way you want to see a 3-year-old. His class levels improving as the race levels are increasing, so he couldn't be coming into the race in better shape. Ran a great Dwyer last time. To be able to still be competitive with hot fractions like that and duel with Forte, I think he showed a lot of grit and a lot of talent. So I really like Saudi Crown in this spot tactically. Number 2 is Forte. He's the class of the field still. Nobody's dethroned him yet, in my view. That Belmont, he ran an excellent race against the grain, and I think he showed that he's a pretty special horse. He may not be tuned up all the way for this one. Certainly it's a preview for the Travers, and we know that that's the end goal. But he can still ratchet it up if he needs to, and I think he could still very well win this race. It's possible, but I think tactically a little bit of a disadvantage because he'll be a little farther back than perhaps he needs to be because that's customarily the way he runs. Number 3 is Disarm. The Matt win was an excellent race. The only note I have is it seemed a little slow to get into his top gear, and that may compromise him in this race, but that also could have been because of the mud and other reasons. In any event, he could certainly win this race. He's in excellent form, and he has the benefit of having a race under his belt more recently where some of these don't. So Disarm is one that definitely has a shot here. Number 4 is Angel of Empire. I think tactically this race goes against everything that he does. It's a small field. He likes to come from off the pace with a big late run. And tactically, I think he's going to be at a big disadvantage in this race because of the lone speed. I think he's going to have blinkers on again, and if he does, they try to do what they did in the Belmont, getting him up a little more forwardly. I think it saps his late kick and kind of makes him a one-paced horse. But Brad Cox is a hell of a lot smarter than me when it comes to training horses. So if there was a problem to be corrected, I'm sure he'll do it. But tactically, I just don't think this race sets up well for Angel Empire, although I love him, have loved him all year, but just not today. Number 5 is Hit Show. He's an honest horse. You got to love him. He gives his all every single time. He's just a cut below the best here, and that's what it comes down to. He'll be right off of Saudi Crown's throat latch, and he will have every opportunity to make a run, but I just don't think he's good enough to close the deal, not against this field. But he's an honest horse, and really like it. You're going to get a great effort out of him, and that's really all you can expect from a horse. So that's the top 5 for the Jim Dandy. I think it's going to be a really competitive race, albeit with a small field. We've spoken enough about that, so you know how I feel about it. If you do like content like this, go on over to our website at rightatthewire.com. We've got full card analysis, daily selections, and 2-year-old analysis of all the maidens that Saratoga's famous for the 2-year-olds. So you can, there's some good opportunities for you going over there and take a look at it. If you do like what you see here, please like and subscribe because it does help to keep us going. And we thank those of you who are part of our community. And thank you to you new folks as well. And I'm glad you're aboard. We will continue our daily stakes postings on the YouTube channel for the entire meet at Saratoga. And we'll have other special postings when warranted, whether it be a weekend, a big stakes event, or something to the otherwise. But so there'll be plenty of content for you here. I'll be talking to you in the very near future. So until then, be well.